J.K. Rowling has accused politicians of snuggling up to trans campaigners. The Harry Potter author has called for an investigation into why political parties are embracing the language of pro-trans groups. Now, she says that Stonewall and Mermaids, these are some of the groups, have been given privileged places at the table. And many suggest that the likes of Stonewall have faced instances where they have appeared to contradict their own policies in the past. So is it time to ditch campaign groups such as those? Well, welcome again to my clashers. Former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza, also businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Well, I know Adam feels strongly about this, so I'm going to have to come to you straight away, and then I'll come to you, Matthew.
Look, I think recent events, the Cass report has proven a lot of us right. There is a very sinister trans and gender ideology agenda out there, and there has been for many years. As a father, I'm horrified that it's reached schools and that it's harmed children so badly. I mean, people like Stonewall, or groups like Stonewall and Mermaids, have basically encouraged to ignore the damaging effects of puberty blockers. Yeah. And it's like we've been bombarded with this encouragement that all things trans is normal. Let's just remember, to change gender or to be trans is not normal. This is not normal to do this. This is an extreme behaviour that many have mental health illness. There's a lot with autism. You know, these are people that maybe need support rather than encouragement to change what they think is their gender and what they are.
Or just give them time to grow, because a lot of it's during puberty, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of celebs, a lot of politicians should feel very ashamed at how they've facilitated this agenda to be pushed, and especially reach our schools and our adverts and our corporations, you know, and push onto our children. I think this is one of the biggest scandals that we will see in decades. And J.K. Rowling she's like a one-woman army that is just exposing this. Some of the tweets that she's put out there, you know, she's exposing Mermaids as having sent chest binders to 13-year-old girls. And she's exposing Stonewall's CEO, you know, he's saying one thing, trying to ride back, reverse ferreting on what they've said in the past. They're guilty of pushing harmful policies on children.
But they would argue that they are trying to help and protect these children, and these children are, you know, going through something and they're assisting. Matthew Laza.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Cass report is really welcome. I think there's been a huge amount of agreement, including from some trans rights campaigners, that there's an awful lot of good in the Cass report. And I think we're all agreed that the previous situation with the clinic was certainly unacceptable, and that what was going on in that in the Portman service wasn't acceptable. So I think that I'm more concerned about Mermaids, which is currently under a Charity Commission investigation, and some of the reports, if they're to be believed, like sending out chest binders, are more alarming. I think on Stonewall, which has done such great work over the past 30 years on LGBT rights, I think it has done needs to be protected. But I think it needs to look at itself in terms of those contradictions you've spoken of, where sometimes it did a thing saying 2-year-olds should be taught about 50 different genders, and that seemed to contradict another piece of advice.
It said 2-year-olds could be trans. Now, that is one of the most horrifying things I read today. Actually, J.K. Rowling tweeted that out there. To say that a 2-year-old can think that they can be another gender when my 4-year-old still thinks she's Elsa on some days. You know, there's no common sense, and to me it's
very badly phrased.
It's very sinister that these people actually believe that these kids want to change gender, and unfortunately out there are parents that almost see a trans kid as a fashion accessory now. And I think this whole agenda has pushed on people that this is normal to change gender. And we have to push back. And as I said earlier, to be trans is not normal.
Well, I don't agree with that phrasing. I think it's a big step, Adam, but there are clearly people throughout history who have been
But it's
trans.
not normal behaviour, is it?
I think as far as children are concerned, children need to be given the space to explore the world, and that can include experimenting with, breaking previous gender stereotypes. That doesn't mean that people should be sort of labelled at the age of 2, which I completely disagree with. And I think that what we need to say is, I'm sure that Stonewall will come into align with with what the CAS report have said, and I hope that we can all be more positive, because members of the trans community do need support, but that is different to some of the mistakes that were being made previously.
I think what does a lot of harm to the trans community are some of these trans activists. You know, they mask up, they black up, and they go to women's rights events and they threaten them. I mean, the trans activists online and on Twitter are some of the most vile and aggressive people that I've encountered on my 15 years on
I think there's horrible scenes where blokes in balaclavas are trying to close women down, but it's still we need to make sure the trans community.
It's toxic. I think it's very toxic from that side.